Admiral Rhea Caldwell stood at the observation deck of TSV Valiant, her eyes drawn to the slow shimmer of the Helios Nebula. The soft blues and violent streaks of crimson gas reflected across the transparent alloy pane, casting shifting patterns over her uniform. She had always found the nebula beautiful in the way storms were beautiful, mesmerizing, unpredictable, and filled with hidden threats. Out here, far from the safety of soul and the comfort of Earth's political stage, beauty rarely meant peace. A soft hum rose behind her, Aurora's avatar appearing as a faint silhouette of light. Admiral, long-range link from Helios Command is degrading. Signal irregularities continue. Rhea didn't turn. Define irregular. Packet loss increasing at an exponential rate. Ravenna Station's transponder has dropped below stable threshold. She exhaled once, steady and controlled. The frontier had never been gentle, but silence was its deadliest sound. Patch it through anyway. The holographic display brightened. Static burst in jagged shapes. A blurred figure appeared, Commander Leto from Ravenna Station. His voice came fractured, like someone tugged at every syllable. Unidentified vessels, breach, multiple, shields down. The image jolted sideways. A flash of movement crossed the frame, tall, angular shapes with armor that looked grown, not forged. A scream echoed faintly behind the static before the feed dissolved entirely. Aurora dimmed her projection. Transmission lost? Rhea's jaw clenched. Try Helios 3. The AI obeyed. A new burst of noise surfaced, chaotic, panicked. Alarms shrieked. The vidfeed showed colonists running through smoke-filled corridors. The camera shook violently, slamming into the wall just long enough to show a towering alien silhouette with blade-like arms tearing through a pressure door. Then darkness. Then nothing. The deck fell silent. Several bridge officers watched with pale faces, waiting for her reaction. She turned around slowly. Bridge status? Lieutenant Armand cleared his throat. Communications relay still responsive, ma'am, but every outbound link past the Helios boundary returns null. It's like someone swallowed the entire frontier. Rhea nodded once. Prep the fleet for immediate departure. Aurora's tone sharpened. Admiral, Fleet Command requires authorization before any strike response. Mobilizing without approval carries significant disciplinary consequences. Rhea faced the AI fully now. Aurora, tens of thousands of civilians are out there. They don't have hours to wait for Earth's committees to argue over protocol. Analyzing, emotional reasoning detected. Good. That means you're finally understanding humans. She pivoted to her officers. Sound general alert. I want every ship in the Vanguard fueled and running hot. We leave in 5. The deck came alive at once, boots pounding, orders relayed, data streams opening in synchronized patterns. For a moment, the tension that had wrapped itself around the crew dissolved into something sharper: purpose. Within minutes, the Terran Vanguard fleet surged from the staging docks like arrows fired from a bowstring. The Valiant led the formation, its angular hull slicing through the void with quiet menace. Ravenna Station came into view sooner than expected, and the sight silenced the bridge. The station was broken open like a cracked egg. Entire habitat rings had been torn apart. Fragments drifted through space, shattered glass, twisted metal, lifeless bodies encased in frozen frost. Scorch marks trailed across the hull in wide strokes, each cut deeper than any human-made weapon could produce. Lieutenant Armand swallowed hard. His voice trembled despite his attempt to hide it. My God, they didn't even try to capture anything. They just ripped it apart. Rhea stepped closer to the viewport, scanning the wreckage with sharp eyes. Her heart rate stayed steady. Years of command had conditioned her to handle horror without hesitation, but something cold settled beneath her ribs. The brutality here wasn't the result of a raid. It was an execution. Plot wreckage scans, she said. Identified debris patterns and power signatures. Find me direction and intent. Aurora responded instantly. Energy residue indicates Vora Carapace weaponry. Probability of Dominion involvement, 98.2%. That confirmed it. The Vora Dominion, militaristic, territorial, and convinced of their moral superiority, rarely ventured into human sectors. But when they did, it was never subtle. Rhea turned to her crew. Search for survivors. The bridge filled with quiet urgency. Drones deployed from launch bays, weaving through the debris fields. Feeds streamed back rapidly. Broken compartments, torn life support pods, collapsed corridors. All empty. After several minutes, Aurora's voice returned. Admiral, no survivors detected. Rhea closed her eyes briefly. Just long enough to feel the weight of the moment, then release it. Bring back anything salvageable. I want logs, black boxes, weapon fragments, anything. As the drones worked, the Valiant drifted deeper into the graveyard. Suddenly, a metallic ping resonated through the deck, Aurora's alert tone. Unknown vessel detected. Small. Drifting. Minimal power signature. Visual, Rhea ordered. A dark shape rolled into view, an enemy frigate, scarred and dead. Its home markings were unmistakable, Vora glyphs etched like predatory runes. Bring it in, she said. Minutes later, drones breached the frigate's memory core and transmitted its internal logs. The bridge lights dimmed as decrypted data filled the screens. Aurora translated quickly. Primary directive, eradicate human expansion before maturation. Secondary directive, extract viable specimens for analysis. Destroy remaining? The bridge fell utterly silent. Armin looked up slowly. They don't see us as rivals. They see us as contamination. Rhea met his gaze. Then they've made a fatal miscalculation. Just as she spoke, the tactical display flickered. Aurora projected a massive cluster of red markers accelerating away from the frontier. More than a cluster, an armada. Admiral, long-range scans have located a Dominion fleet massing beyond the Targan Rift. Estimated vessel count, 912. A whisper rippled through the crew. Armin stepped forward, voice tight. A fleet that size, they're preparing something enormous. Rhea didn't blink. They already started. Aurora continued. Projected trajectory suggests an encirclement pattern around human frontier sectors within 72 hours. She clasped her hands behind her back. We intercept them before they reach the rift. Ma'am, Armin said, that's an insane mismatch. They outnumber us dozens to one. Rhea's expression remained calm, almost serene. War isn't decided by numbers. It's decided by who refuses to break first. Aurora tilted her glowing form. Admiral Caldwell, strategic assessment suggests overwhelming defeat probability. Rhea allowed herself the faintest smile. Then we adjust the odds. She turned to her officers. The bridge straightened instinctively. Transmit fleet-wide, prepare for high-risk engagement. We meet the Dominion head-on. Armin hesitated only a second. Understood, ma'am. As the Valiant pivoted away from the ruined station, Rhea took one last look at the drifting remains of Ravenna. A silent promise formed behind her steady expression. This would not happen again. She raised her chin. Aurora, set course for Targan Rift. Course laid in. The stars stretched into white lines ahead of them. Rhea Caldwell whispered, barely audible. You wanted our attention, now you have it. And the Terran Vanguard fleet plunged into the dark. The War Council chamber aboard TSV Valiant pulsed with holographic projections. Star charts rotated overhead, Vora fleet movements marked in violent red arcs, while the luminous blue line of the Terran Vanguard curved toward the Targan Rift. Admiral Rhea Caldwell took her place at the center table, hands clasped behind her back, her posture precise and still. Around her stood chief engineers, tacticians, squadron leaders, and Aurora's shimmering avatar. Their expressions reflected the gravity of what lay ahead. Chief Engineer Han tapped a command. A lattice of intersecting beams appeared above the table. The Gravlance network, Admiral. Coordinating all 12 ships will generate a gravitational prism strong enough to shear apart any large vessel caught inside. Caldwell studied the projection. And the risks? Han hesitated. If any ship falls out of sync, even by a fraction, the prism collapses. Chain reaction would tear our entire formation apart. Aurora added. Failure probabilities are considerable. Weapon requires perfect synchronization under battle stress. Caldwell leaned forward slightly. Can we make it work? Han exhaled. With flawless timing and a miracle. Miracles, Caldwell said quietly, are human specialty. The council exchanged uneasy glances, but none doubted her intent. The stakes left no room for safer alternatives. Aurora shifted form, her glowing outline flickering as new data streamed in. Dominion reinforcements converge toward the rift. They anticipate confrontation. Targon Rift gives them the advantage, Caldwell replied. Which means we take it away. No one argued. She dismissed them to their stations, the chamber emptying in moments. As the last officer exited, Lieutenant Armin remained. His hands were clasped too tightly, knuckles pale. Caldwell noted the tension immediately. Speak freely, she said. He swallowed. Admiral, I watched my family die in the Vora raids 5 years ago. I froze. I couldn't move until the evacuation crew dragged me out. He looked down. If I freeze again out there. You won't, she said simply. You don't know that. Caldwell stepped closer, her voice lowering. I do. Because you're standing here now. People who freeze don't come back to the front. You returned, and that tells me exactly who you are. Armin's breath shook once. I don't want fear controlling me. Then give it orders, she replied. That's what leadership is. Not the absence of fear, commanding it. He nodded, steadier now. Thank you, ma'am. Get to your station, Lieutenant. The fleet needs clear minds. Armin saluted and left, shoulders straighter than when he had entered. 3 hours later, the Terran Vanguard fleet slipped into the Targon Rift. The rift stretched like a colossal wound across space, jagged asteroid clusters, swirling dust clouds, and unstable gravitational eddies that tugged at ship hulls with unpredictable force. The light from distant stars fractured against drifting debris, creating a shifting patchwork of shadows that could hide an entire armada. Caldwell stood on the bridge, gaze fixed on the turbulent expanse. Maintain tight formation. Engines at half thrust. No sudden burns. Acknowledged, replied the navigation officer. Entering gravitational distortion field now. The ship trembled as unseen forces pulled and twisted around it. Even seasoned officers tightened their grips on consoles. Aurora's voice hummed. Multiple distortions detected. Density increasing. This pattern suggests artificial manipulation. They're shaping the terrain, Caldwell said. Classic Dominion strategy. As if answering her prediction, the shadows along the asteroid walls rippled. Then they peeled back like a curtain. Vora warships uncloaked in synchronized precision. Dozens. Then hundreds. More shapes flickered into existence with cold, mechanical grace. Crimson energy signatures illuminated the rift like malevolent lanterns. Gasps filled the bridge. Lieutenant Armin's voice cracked. They were waiting for us. Caldwell didn't flinch. Battle stations. All ships prepare for immediate engagement. The Dominion Armada surged forward, firing without hesitation. Blue-white energy beams lanced through the void, shredding small asteroids and throwing debris across the human formation. The deck shuddered violently. Shields at 60%, shouted a technician. Return fire, Caldwell ordered. Target forward batteries. Keep the center lanes open. Human ships erupted with plasma volleys, the bright bursts carving temporary safe paths through the rift's chaos. Pilots navigated instinctively, weaving through spiraling rock fragments. The Vora responded with brutal efficiency, their capital ships pushing forward like armored predators. For every enemy vessel vaporized, 2 more advanced. Aurora flashed crimson. Admiral, numerical disadvantage is severe. Recommend deployment of Gravlance network. Form the lattice, Caldwell commanded. Begin synchronization procedure. Across the fleet, beams of golden light extended from ship to ship, forming a delicate web. Space vibrated subtly as each gravlance calibrated. Han's voice crackled through comms. Alignment at 80%, 90, hold steady. Asteroids shattered as Dominion vessels pushed closer, preparing to crush the fragile human formation. One enemy dreadnought charged directly at the lattice, its hull glowing as thrusters flared. Armin's voice rose with panic. They're going to ram us! Caldwell's reply was calm and razor-sharp. Fire! The gravlance network ignited. A blinding wave of gravitational force erupted, the prism radiating destructive energy. The Vora dreadnought hit the field first, and tore apart instantly. Its hull elongated unnaturally, metal screaming as the ship fractured into luminous shards. Two more ships followed, pulled and shredded before their engines could react. Shock rippled through the Dominion ranks. Their steady advance faltered. Aurora's tone shifted. Prism stable. Lattice functioning at optimal capacity. Maintain position, Caldwell said. Push them back. Human ships held firm, firing through the gaps in the lattice, turning the rift into a blazing gauntlet. For the first time since entering the ambush, survival felt possible. But Dominion retaliation came swiftly. A swarm of torpedoes streaked toward the human formation. The gravlance field destabilized as ships diverted power to shields. Captain Elena Voss, aboard TSV Resolute, spoke over comms. Admiral, torpedo trajectory intersects Valiant. You won't survive the blast radius, Caldwell replied instantly. Then pull back and regroup. Voss didn't answer. Instead, her ship veered sharply, engines burning at maximum. The Resolute plunged into the torpedo cluster, absorbing every detonation. An expanding sphere of fire filled the rift. Caldwell's grip tightened. Elena, Armin whispered. She saved us. Aurora confirmed in a muted tone. Resolute destroyed. All hands lost. Rhea inhaled once. Exhaled once. Then sealed the grief away. Honor her sacrifice. And use the time she bought us. The lattice dimmed briefly, but Han's voice returned with urgency. Admiral, we recovered fragments from the enemy frigate's deeper logs. There's more. The Dominion plans simultaneous strikes on 3 human colonies within 48 hours. The bridge froze. Caldwell felt the weight of those words anchor itself in her chest. Which colonies? Helios Gate, Port Meridian, and Sagan Reach. Millions of lives. She straightened slowly. No hesitation. Then this ends here. We strike before they reach their positions. Aurora pulsed softly. Strategic consensus. Immediate offensive action necessary. Caldwell faced the rift, eyes sharp, unwavering. Prepare the fleet. We move to final engagement. The Vora armada regrouped in the distance, unaware that the humans they tried to trap were already preparing to turn the rift into a graveyard. And the silence across the bridge held one truth. The Dominion had no idea what storm they had awakened. The Terran vanguard drifted in the shattered light of the Targon rift, battered but unbroken. Fires still flickered along damaged hull plates, and coolant leaked from ruptured conduits like drifting mist. Yet every ship held formation. Every officer stayed at their post. The silence across the fleet was not fear, it was collective resolve sharpening into something formidable. Admiral Rhea Caldwell stood stiffly at the center of the Valiant's bridge, watching tactical projections ripple across the holotable. Red markers, hundreds of Vora vessels, were repositioning beyond the asteroid curtain, readying their final strike. Aurora's avatar materialized beside her. Admiral, Dominion forces converge. Estimated time to full assault, 15 minutes. Long enough, Caldwell murmured. Chief Engineer Han hurried in, grease streaking his sleeve. The rift collapse sequence is ready, ma'am. But once we activate it, the singularity will consume anything within the radius, including us if we stay too long. Understood, she said. We'll trigger it at the height of their advance. Maximum effect. A young officer turned from her console. Ma'am, activating that collapse, it could destabilize the entire region for decades. Caldwell looked her straight in the eyes. Better a dangerous rift than 3 dead colonies. The officer nodded, jaw set. Aurora scanned new data. Admiral, incoming transmission from the Dominion flagship. Put him through. The lights dimmed. A towering figure appeared on the main screen. Warlord Zorkael Threx, armor etched with clawed sigils, his 4 eyes glowing with cold arrogance. Human, he growled, voice resonant and heavy. Your resistance amuses me. You fight like creatures unaware of their extinction. His mouth curled into a sneer. The colonies you cling to are already marked for erasure. Your defiance only delays the inevitable. Caldwell didn't move. You invaded our frontier. You slaughtered civilians. And you expect surrender? Zorkael leaned forward. We expected fear. Then you expected wrong. Her tone barely shifted. You came for prey. You found something else. For the first time, the warlord's expression flickered, an almost imperceptible tightening around his jaw. You cannot win. Caldwell stepped closer to the screen. Watch us. She cut the comm. Signal the fleet, she ordered. Prepare for offensive action. The Dominion Armada surged forward moments later, engines roaring like a field of burning stars. Their formation swept across the rift, eclipsing entire asteroid clusters as they advanced. Capital ships charged at the center, flanked by destroyers firing continuous volleys. The Valiant shook violently as the first barrage struck. Shields flared white-hot. Officers braced against consoles. Port shielding at 40%, someone shouted. Stabilize output, Caldwell responded. Redirect power from auxiliary thrusters. Aurora flickered. Admiral, Dominion strike wings approaching our flank. Recommending countermaneuvers. Deploy fighters, Caldwell said. Tell them, unpredictable vectors only. Human fighter squadrons burst from launch bays, diving into the chaos with instinctive precision. They broke formation instantly, flying in irregular, spiraling paths, patterns no Vora pilot could anticipate. Plasma trails twisted behind them like furious paint strokes. Lieutenant Armin's voice came through comms, steady and fierce. Valiant, this is Sierra Wing. Engaging enemy interceptors. On screen, Armin's squadron darted between debris fragments and detonating hull pieces, outmaneuvering the Dominion ships that tried to track them. A Vora interceptor overshot, forced into a collision with a drifting asteroid. Armin laughed breathlessly. They can't predict a damn thing we're doing. Caldwell allowed a faint, proud smile. Good. Keep them guessing. But the Dominion push intensified. Capital ships unleashed coordinated broadsides. The rift lit with brilliant bursts as human cruisers absorbed the barrage. Han's voice cut through static. Admiral, we can't hold their front line much longer. If we're going to trigger the collapse, it has to be soon. Caldwell turned toward Aurora. Status? Singularity anchors positioned. Rift collapse sequence ready at your command. She inhaled once, steady and deliberate. All ships, retreat to secondary line. Prepare for jump the moment the sequence initiates. Officers relayed orders. The fleet began shifting back, battered ships dragging smoking hulls into new positions. Dominion vessels surged in to fill the space. No, Caldwell whispered. Then louder. Trigger the collapse. Aurora's form brightened until the whole bridge glowed. Activation in 3, 2, 1. Across the rift, anchored explosives unfurled gravitational fields that snapped into alignment. The asteroids around them trembled. Light warped. The space between rocks twisted as if pulled by invisible claws. Then reality folded. A violent gravitational shockwave ripped through Targan Rift, dragging the Dominion Armada toward its center. Massive ships buckled under the sudden pull, twisting like metal caught in a storm. Zorkael's flagship fired thrusters at full burn, engines screaming against the pull. His voice burst across open comms. Impossible! How do they wield such power? Caldwell watched the screens with steel in her gaze. You wanted to understand humans, she said softly. Here's your lesson. The singularity expanded in a spiraling vortex. Dominion dreadnoughts shattered as they collided with collapsing asteroids. Smaller vessels spun uncontrollably before imploding into shards. Aurora monitored the destruction with rapid-fire analysis. Gravitational field expanding as predicted. Fleet must initiate jump immediately. Execute, Caldwell ordered. Human ships fired emergency jump drives. One by one, they vanished into streaks of white light just as the singularity widened to engulf the rift's center. Zorkael's last transmission crackled through the dying storm. Humans are not prey. Then his signal was swallowed. Within seconds, the entire Dominion armada was gone. The Terran vanguard reassembled far outside the rift, battered but alive. Emergency crews rushed across damaged corridors. Fires hissed under sealed bulkheads. Despite the exhaustion, every crew member stood a little taller. They had faced an impossible force, and destroyed it. Caldwell stepped onto the bridge again, surveying her officers. Casualty reports? Aurora answered softly. Heavy, but within survival thresholds. Many lives preserved thanks to Captain Voss's sacrifice. Caldwell nodded once. Honor all of them. A quiet moment followed as the crew absorbed the magnitude of what had just transpired. Armin limped onto the bridge, helmet tucked under his arm, suit scorched. You did well, Lieutenant, Caldwell said. He gave a tired smile. You were right, ma'am. Fear listens when you give it orders. She placed a hand on his shoulder. You earned that victory. Aurora projected incoming civilian channels. News headlines filled the air. Terran Vanguard destroys Dominion Armada. Frontier saved from extinction. Humanity unbroken. Armin let out a quiet breath. They finally understand who we are. Caldwell walked to the viewport. The nebula stretched before her, calm once again. She rested her hands behind her back. They thought we were weak, she said. She let the words settle in the silence. They paid for that mistake. The stars glittered like witnesses to the truth. Humanity would never bow, not to monsters, empires, or extinction. Not now. Not ever.